Hello everyone and who is watching me wherever you are. Welcome to my channel. I'm Reverend Dr. Samuel Nduati and I'm a priest in the Anglican Church. I'm also currently working as the University Chaplain at Egerton University. And I want to welcome you so much in this channel. As I've said, I want to tell you that I have come up with this channel purposely because I want to educate people of all walks wherever they are, because I felt so much that I have a lot of content that I want to share with them in a way of education, because all along in my history and also with what I've been doing, I have a lot of experience, in particular this in the area of masculinities. That has to do with the men, including young people, the boys. And therefore, I feel so much obliged that I need to share what I have in this channel. I want to say that throughout my work as a priest in the Anglican Church, and also in my studies, I've come to realize that we need to share a lot for the young boys, young men, and also everyone that is listening to us on issues of masculinities. How did I come up with the issue of masculinity? It is because when I was serving earlier on in the Anglican Church, it came a time when the bishop appointed me to be the coordinator of Kenya Anglican Men Association in our diocese. And therefore, I was able to travel widely, seeing men and hearing the experiences. And so I decided that I needed to go deeper and understand who a man is. Therefore, I want to share with you in this channel concerning men. This is what we call masculinities. Now, when I traveled throughout the diocese and realized what men go through, I also got a chance to continue with my studies. And I realized that what I needed to pursue is issues to do with men. That is what we call masculinities. So in my master's program, indeed, when I was doing my thesis, when I wrote my thesis, it was concerning the bereavement experiences of widowers. Remember, widowers are men, and therefore what they went through is very, very important for a man to understand. So I did a thesis on bereavement experiences of widowers, going deeply even to listen to stories when I was collecting my data, what men go through, especially when they lose their wives in death. And later on, when I got a chance to do my PhD program, I went on with the issues of masculinities. I did my PhD in gender and development studies. And so I pursued issues to do with masculinity. Actually, my thesis was on transforming masculinities in the context of modern family crisis. And I took two organizations which I used to learn through about men and what they contribute in the family. And therefore, these two organizations really taught me a lot. We have one Kenya Anglican Men Association and also Presbyterian Church Men Fellowship. I learned a lot from them. And this is why I feel obliged actually to share my stories, to share my experiences, to share issues of masculinities. And especially today, when we are talking about the boy child, for a long time now, we have talked about the girl child, empowering the girl child, which is very key, because without empowering a woman, then the society will really have a problem. But at the same time, we need to talk about the boy child. We need to talk about how to empower the boy child. Remember, the boy child is in this issue of masculinity. So therefore, whoever you are and wherever you are, please continue watching me in my channel. But don't forget to subscribe, and so that always you'll be receiving information about masculinities from me. So for today, I wish to begin by looking at what masculinity is as a way of defining it, and the way people think about manhood, the way people think about the man. So I would like to start with masculinities. Now, this term may look very big, the term masculinity. It has to do with man. It has to do with manhood. It has to do with one divide of gender. So when you talk about masculinity, we cannot talk about it without referring ourselves to gender. Gender is a social concept. It means what society is doing to construct a man and also to construct a woman. Let me tell you that you are not born a man. You are also not born a woman, but you are born male, you are born female. But the society constructs you to be a woman. It also constructs you to be a man. This is why we need to get that difference clearly. So there is gender and there is sex. Sex is either male or female. So you are born a male, you are born a female. Remember, even in the forms that we fill most of the times, like when you are going to an institution, you are asked to actually fill there. Okay, I know in the forms we write gender. I think the best way to write it is sex, so that we can now, after writing sex of your sex now, you indicate whether you are a male or a female, because this is how you are born, either female or male. Now it means when our mothers actually give birth, say they are in the maternity, what they look at is what we call the biological apparatus. When they look at the biological apparatus, they will say these are male, these are female, but many times they would say this is a boy or this is a girl. And then thereafter, they start socializing that male, they start socializing that female. Actually, the family is one of the biggest institutions of socializing male and female. So that later on, you'd realize, people are calling you a man, they're also calling you a woman. That's where now the issue of gender comes in, so that now you are socialized by the culture to become a man or to become a woman. And this socialization, say for example, particularly actually on the family, we need to know the family is the greatest institution of making you to be a man or making you to be a woman. The family would start by putting some clothes of a certain color. For the boys, mostly it is blue. For the girls, mostly it is pink. So that when a male is being socialized to be a man, he puts on, or actually the family clothes that male in blue. And therefore, this boy grows knowing that I'm a man. In some cultures, even the boys are not allowed to go into the kitchen. And it doesn't mean that if they go to the kitchen, anything bad is going to happen. They cannot burn themselves because they're going to the kitchen. It's only because they are being socialized. They are told men don't go to actually the kitchen. Now, another thing is that they are also even socialized to be stoic. Stoicism here means that even if they feel pain, they are supposed to behave as if they are not feeling pain. And this is also seen even in the rite of passage, when they're becoming, they're changing from boyhood to manhood. Most of them go through certain pain, and they're not supposed to cry at all. I know in some societies or some communities, they go through this initiation by way of circumcision. And when they are being circumcised, remember, this is cutting of the flesh. But they're not supposed to cry because they are men. So therefore, they are socialized to be men. Now, the way or what society expects you to behave as a man is what we are calling masculinity. For instance, stoicism. You're not supposed to cry. Haustahili kulia kama wewe ni mwanaume. So therefore, it means, it's society which is telling you, it doesn't mean that you're not feeling pain. You can cry as much as a woman cries, but then you are supposed, let me not call it pretending, but it is almost like that you're not supposed to cry. And then there are some things you are not supposed to do. This is the community, this is the society that is socializing you to be like that. So masculinity, in other words, are the expectations of the society on a male. So what the society expects a male to behave, or how to behave, then that's what we are calling masculinity. And this is what is giving us a background of what we shall be speaking from now henceforth. Now, you realize that when we talk about masculinity, we are saying all men are not the same again. They are not the same. And this would help us to remember several disciplines that give rise to the differences that we have about men. For instance, one of them is actually a discipline that we call anthropology. It has to do with the human beings. And you realize that with anthropology, we have different cultures. These different cultures have different kinds of men. A man in a certain culture is not the same as a man in another culture. And we have so many cultures in our country, Kenya here. In fact, we have so many tribes. You'd realize that men are different in different ethnicity. They are different in different ethnic backgrounds. So therefore, a Maasai man is not the same as a Kikuyu man. A Luo man is not the same as a Kamba man. And this is why if you go and ask ladies whom they would like to marry them, you'd hear maybe a lady in a certain culture saying, I want to be married by a Luo man. Maybe because they are being said to be, they are better in a certain manner. So therefore, why are we having this difference that ladies would like to be married by a man maybe from a different culture? It's because men are different from the point of anthropology. Now, when we come to sociology, for example, we have different classes of men. And therefore, men in a particular class is different from a man in another class. We have classes in the society. We have economic differences. Kuna wale wako katika hali ya juu kiuchumi, kuna wengine wako katikati, na wengine hata pale chini. And therefore, wale wako pale juu ni tofauti na wengine. Ndio utaona ya kwamba, in fact, even nowadays, you'd realize when people are defining men, utasikia ukiuliza wasichana kwa mfano, angetaka kuolewa na nani ama mwanaume ni nani. Kuna wengine wanasema mwanaume ni mfuko, mwanaume ni kibeti, meaning that they would like to be married by a man on a higher class in the society in terms of economics. So therefore, in terms of classes, which is in sociology, then it means men are different. And even in other areas like history. History, for example, also gives us differences in manhood or in men. For instance, say a 19th century man is not the same as the man today. If you ask men today to define who is a man, it's different actually from their grandfathers. A grandfather is different from a young man today. And therefore, you realize that manhood actually is different in terms of history. Man is also different in terms of psychology. Psychology tells us that men, or actually human beings, grow in various stages. So you realize that a young man, for example, who is a teenager, if you would actually tell him to define who is a man, that definition is going to be different from an old grandfather who is actually, let's say, 80 years and above. So that old man is defining manhood differently. And therefore, I would like to say there is differences that we find in terms of masculinities. And again, we have scholars that have spoken about the issue of masculinity. We have somebody called Riun Cornell. Even Riun Cornell came up with the differences that he was finding in his studies about men. For example, he came up with 4 types of masculinities. We have hegemonic, we have subordinate, we have complicit, and all these are different. Like when he talked about hegemonic masculinity. Hegemonic masculinity, this is a man who dominates not only women, but also other men. And this is why you'd hear, and we'll talk about these things later on, you'd hear people referring to a toxic masculinity. Yaani wale wanaume ambao wanafinyiria sio tu wanawake, lakini pia wanafinyiria hata wanaume wenzao. So I think this is an area that we shall come to cover later on, looking at hegemonic men and probably how toxic masculinity comes about. But also we have subordinate men. Okay, they still gain the benefits of hegemonic masculinity, and they're not questioning that hegemonic masculinity is actually, being very harsh on women and being very harsh also on other men. And so they're actually there. But then also we have even complicity, they support. But also we have marginalized masculinities. Say, for example, men that have been involved in other countries, not Kenya per se, in other countries would find some men who are involved in homosexuality. And I think when you talk about homosexuality, and we shall come to it, is giving rise again to an issue we are talking about today, LGBTQ. But men who are in LGBTQ are seen as marginalized men. They are not seen as men enough. So in other words, my viewer, hii ndio nataka tuongee zaidi, tujiulize mwanaume sasa wa sasa atakaa namna gani after looking at these definitions, and also asking ourselves, what is the contribution of man in terms of the issues of family, in terms of issues to do with the society, etc. etc. So welcome to this channel where we shall be educating one another. And I wish that actually you subscribe, and you also give me feedback in any manner about masculinities and the way it contributes to our lives in the society today. And now I want to say that after looking at how masculinities contribute to the society, we would see many other times that men are seen as if they are causing problems, say in the family. For example, gender-based violence, for example, not contributing to the welfare of the family, neglecting of family responsibilities. So when they are doing that, how are we trying to help them? We have some organizations, and I have mentioned two in particular when I was beginning, Kenya Anglican Men Association, and also PCMF, Presbyterian Church Men Fellowship. These are FBOs, they are faith-based organizations, but you also have others, civil societies. We have individuals that are actually talking about masculinities. Lakini kwangu katika hii channel, nataka tutaangalia hayo mambo yote na tutasaidiana, na mwanaume yote akiwa na maswali, I know you'll be asking me these questions, and therefore develop this particular channel. So you are really welcome, and God bless you. As I said earlier on, I'm also a priest. I would like also in this channel to look at what we call a biblical masculinity. What sorry. Biblical masculinity has to do with what does the Bible tell us about who man is. And this is where we shall come to look at Jesus himself. Jesus is a good model of man, because you see, Jesus was here on the earth. Okay, he's both God and human, but he came on the earth, and when he came on the earth, he did not come and behave as God only. He was both God and man. And in this case, a male, and in this case also now developed as a man. And as a man, therefore, we need to ask ourselves, what can we learn from him? Because we see him living as a man, associating with other men, associating with women, even to an extent of him being accused that as a good man of God, as actually a teacher of the law, he's being accused of associating with women. Remember a story, the story of the Good Samaritan, that woman in John chapter 4. And Jesus with his disciples that are men, when they were walking and they reached at the well where the woman was coming to draw water, the disciples left him, went looking for food, and Jesus was alone at that well. And then the Samaritan woman came to fetch water, and there a conversation ensues for Jesus and the Samaritan woman. When the disciples came back, they were shocked, they were surprised that this good man of God is speaking in public with a woman. It was not expected that a good man, and in this case, Jesus, who is actually the teacher of the law, associating with women. So we shall look at this, because why are other men, I'm sorry, sorry for that. Why is a good man associating with women? It was not expected for women actually for a good man to be associated with women, especially in public. In any case, even when the Jews were forming a quorum, to actually form a quorum for worship, women were not counted as one who would form a quorum, but only men. And so it could mean, for example, if there were with 15 women and 2 gentlemen, for example, you'd not make a mistake when you asked how many people are here. Then you start saying they are 17. No, it's only 2, because 2 are men and 15 are ladies. So we like also to look at religion and women, see why religion actually was really, it looked like women are subordinate in religion, but Jesus was coming to change that. So as a man, what do you need to learn from Jesus? That he's changing the way people think about the society, the way people think about masculinity, the way people think about women. And so he was changing that by talking to this Samaritan woman. So the Bible records that the disciples did not even ask him, what were you saying to this woman? Or what were you doing? Because they were shocked. They did not answer. But you see, through that, Jesus changed the life of women. And not only that, even when Jesus resurrected from the dead, the first people to go and see him, actually, we have a woman who actually went and saw that Jesus had resurrected. And when she went back to tell the disciples did not believe it. Why? Because for the Jews also, women's words are not supposed to be believed just yet. You have to remain silent, and then later on, actually, now you believe in them. Don't we do that even in Africa? That we, like where I come from, we say that you don't believe a woman today. You can believe in a woman's words, later on. So what are we saying? That the woman's words are to be believed later on. So we can learn a lot in this channel when we are talking about masculinity, when we are talking about manhood. This is why I continue to ask you to subscribe to my channel so that we can learn together. And if you have any question, you continue asking these questions and we shall be able to answer them. Thank you so much, my viewers. Continue to subscribe, but I want to conclude our talk today by telling you that masculinity is what the society ascribes to a male gender. And femininity is what the society ascribes to the female gender. You are not born a man, you are not born a woman, but you are socialized to be a man. And when we understand this, then we shall understand our identity as men and therefore live well in this society. Because what else are we looking for? We are looking at how to live well in such a society. So see you next time.